not specifically Christians.
Can you comment on why you think, if the statistics show that there's been an increase in school shootings in the last 20 years, why that is? Is that
I think that guns have been easily accessed in the past years. I think before Columbine, nobody knew that that was an option. School shootings, like I don't think anybody thought to do that, but once Columbine happened, everyone was like, this is a new way we can take out our anger. They never thought of that before, and so since then, I think that it's just arose more, which has influenced other people too.
Well, that's a fantastic point.
And then what about the media that, how do you think they would know about that unless for the media?
I think in society, social media is so big today. Everybody has social media, and I think that like some people want attention, shooters want attention, and they want to get to know. And with media, like with Parkland shooting, like any shooting, like you can go on the internet after shooting and find out every information on the shooting, like everything. It's just social media is a big part.
I know it was Western East, but there was like 2 friends that they posted on their Snapchat story something that they were both going to shoot at the school, and they had like a list of who they were going to shoot. So obviously social media played out how like they didn't have school the next day. This was just recently because they posted that. So what happened if we didn't have social media? They would have shoot right away. That would have happened.
So it's the positive use of social media?
In that case, yes.
There's positives and negatives.
Okay, talk to me about the negatives.
Well, obviously people get like bullied on social media and they take that into consideration about coming into the school and shooting everybody just because one person got bullied.
Okay. Talk to me, are you all social media users? Do you all have social media accounts of some sort? I'm old, so all I've got is Facebook, but I understand there's a Snapface and TweetChat and all these other things. What do you think as high school students, and you and your peers, what is your responsibility when it comes to social media? We talked about some mental health awareness on here. Certainly that's been in the news a lot. There's the see something, say something, I think we talk about a lot. What do you think your role as just students, as members of the school, and just as members of the community are as you start experiencing things on social media that you think might cause concern?
When you see someone getting bullied or mistreated on social media, you know, as a student, how much has been happening around the schools with the shootings and stuff. So you just have to start being more sensitive and paying more attention to telling people to stop or putting it into, I guess, to prevent this from happening in the school.
Other responsibilities social media wise for you guys?
Yeah, just like if you see something that is out of the ordinary or you think could possibly be a dangerous situation, to report it as soon as possible to a higher authority. If a student or another peer started showing some unusual behavior on social media.
But what if you see something and you think it might be a problem and you report it and it turns out to be much ado about nothing? It turns out to be nothing. Does that then cause a problem because you've reported something that you thought was bad, but it ended up being something completely harmless?
I personally don't think so. I think I'd rather be safe than sorry.
I agree.
It was just a joke. Like, you don't really know if they're being serious or not. Like, they'll post on their Instagram, like, oh, next Thursday I'm going to kill myself or something.
Right.
So, like Morgan said, it's good to just be safe than sorry rather than say that person did post that and they did kill themselves on Thursday. I think everybody would feel, like, hopeless if they didn't say anything about it.
Just for example, in the Parkland shooting, the shooter Nicholas Cruz, he did post pictures on Instagram and like of guns and stuff, and people did report it. And so maybe if they would have reported it or watched the sports and shooting, maybe something would have been.
That's a great point, Lexi. You talked about what he posted, some of the signs that were out there. Certainly short of a mental health evaluation being made public to everybody. I think there's been some common threads through the years, even starting back at Columbine, of indicators, certainly hindsight being 20/20, but things that they've gone back and looked at and said, wait a minute, this maybe should have set off a red flag. Do we know about anything else? We talked about posting pictures of guns online. Do we know about any of these other previous shooters and incidences and things that might have set off red flags that were missed?
I think like I don't know who contacted, but for the Florida shooter, didn't somebody like contact the FBI about him?
I believe there was a report, yes.
Yeah, I know that like that happened, but I think like besides what Lexi said.
Well, this doesn't have to do with social media, but it was a red flag that I saw.
Mhm.
Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland shooter, the parents that he had been living with, so both of his parents had died and he went to live in foster care, and then his foster parent died. So he was living with a friend, and his friend's parents knew that he had a gun.
Mhm.
And I read that he enjoyed hunting. But the parents he was with had restrictions on his gun, but they wouldn't take it from him. They knew he had one. They knew he was troubled. He was highly depressed. So that was a red flag for me that I saw that they knew that he had a gun and did not say anything. That's just,
Any other characteristics or red flags that we've seen through the years with people who perpetrated mass shootings? I'm thinking specifically, there's a lot of reports of animal abuse. There's a lot of reports of kind of reclusive behavior, people who pull away from society. There's certainly verbal, physical abuse of peers, parents, those sorts of things. So there's a lot of red flags that can go up that can set off indicators that maybe there's a potential issue there, not necessarily that would balloon into a mass shooting situation, but something where you can be aware that somebody's distraught around you.
I think that now, like, people, like, tend to, like, most of the shooters say they've been bullied.
Mhm.
I think they try to, like, blame other people for their, like, own problems that they might have.
You carry over a subject from yesterday. I was on a panel yesterday about violence in the media, video games, movies, those sorts of things. Do you ladies think that any of that, the portrayal of violence in video games and movies, plays any role in maybe some of these mass shooting incidences? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
I think that in like the video games and movies that go on now, there's lots of guns and killing, and I think that some people like think it's okay because Hollywood we have movies and stuff and think it's on like whatever, so they transfer it to real life, and I think that like it has an effect on people.
Other thoughts?
I don't know that much on video games, but I would say that it does have an effect because obviously if you're gonna sit there and play a violent video game that's like killing people, your mind is probably not gonna be where it should.
especially people like with like mental illnesses
Mm-hmm.
who have access to these video games, who already aren't in the right mind and maybe are depressed, or have like other mental illnesses. They can easily be influenced to think it's so easy on video games. It can be just as easy in person. Maybe they want to try that or see if it is more of like, because I know when guys play video games, it's more like of a high, I guess. Like I don't know what word to use for that. Like it makes them feel like they're cool. I
Maybe
don't
there's a
know.
desensitization there?
Yeah, so
Okay,
maybe like
go with
thinking
that.
that they could do it in real life would make
Okay.
them feel.
Let me flip the script just a little bit as Mr. Sisk did earlier. You all said that you would be okay if there was maybe a non-lethal deterrent available, mace, pepper spray, maybe a taser. Can you think of a negative of having something like that in a school environment? I mean, not a gun, so most likely not going to kill anybody. But if a teacher had mace available or pepper spray, or Mrs. Kett had a taser in her desk, what's a negative aspect of having that present in a school situation? Not saying she does, and I'm not saying she doesn't.
I mean, obviously, like, again, I don't think the students should know where that's at.
Okay?
Because if they did know where it's at, I'm sure they would, like, we're all mature, we're probably gonna get it out and, like, try to use it or something.
We're all mature.
I would just say, like,
Can I get that on note?
yeah,
Yep.
I mean, every single one of us are, but,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that,
So possibility of students accessing that? Okay. Ladies?
Teachers get frustrated. I don't.
So if you don't turn in your homework, Emma, is Mrs. Kett gonna like pepper spray you? You're
Maybe.
afraid? Okay.
No, but I'm not thinking of my teachers specifically, but I'm thinking like somewhere in the United States of America, there has to be a teacher that can get frustrated and
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
So maybe it'd be fair to say that having that accessible may lend itself to the opportunity of that being abused in some
Yes,
way. Okay,
by
let's,
anybody.
not by somebody who would give you a grade on an assignment that you're currently in, but by somebody else.
Yes.
Okay, just checking. What do you ladies think, if there was a lethal deterrent, like like arming teachers or arming administrators, or there was a non-lethal deterrent, mace, pepper spray, tasers, those sorts of things, what do you think the onus should be on the school that is either arming or equipping those teachers or administrators with those devices, or allowing them to bring them in? Is there any onus on the school to prepare them, monitor them? What would you think would be a reasonable expectation of the school?
Well, to put the kids in training. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just like the teacher should be like have good training. I think
Okay.
they should have like I think they should go to like shooting ranges. I think that they should have like an overall like good idea. Like I don't think they should just give you a gun and just like expect you to know what to do. Like I think they should have proper training and yeah.
Okay. You guys agree with that? What would that training look like, do you think? I mean, you think that's like your driver's license, maybe you get trained one time and now you've got it for the rest of the time that you're teaching or you're an administrator, or?
Maybe like, because most teachers don't work in the summer, so maybe during the summer they could do some kind of like course that is obviously longer than just a few days. It needs to be something like big. I don't know. I'm just like, there needs to be more training than just, it needs to be longer than an issue.
Would that be voluntary on the part of these teachers?
If the school's not offering it, yes. But I think that some schools should start offering that type of stuff, because not everybody's, I don't think everybody would be prepared if the shooter just came in here.
I have to step away, so I apologize, I'm leaving early, but one last question. I know the police force, when they deploy tasers to their officers, one of the first parts of that training is they make that officer get tased so that they know kind of what to expect. If we armed teachers, not like Mrs. Kett, but other teachers with tasers, would you be in favor of them having to be tased first so that they knew what it was like? I didn't say we were going to YouTube it, I just was curious if you were. Okay. Thank you for letting me participate, guys.
Do you guys know all of the school shootings that you studied, was it always the case the shooter themselves attended that school? Or are there sometimes other extenuating circumstances? And on top of that, do you think the fact that we are a Christian school, does that make us more or less susceptible to someone wanting to come and do something like that?
I know at Sandy Hook, it was an older guy who, his name was Adam. He killed first graders and then 6 school employees. He also didn't attend there or attend the school. He just like targeted, that were innocent.
But other than that, a lot of the shootings we've been seeing, like since Sandy Hook, have been students or previous students who, I guess, had anger towards kids at their school or towards issues or just reasons to do that, I guess, from the school standpoint.
I know it's been quite some time, but there was a case of a shooting when they had the students' prayer around the flagpole. Did you all come into any information on that?
I don't think I have any research.
Do you know when the first school shooting occurred in the United States?
It was like,
There was one in 1764.
that was a big difference.
And I think that was in Texas, but I don't have that written down, but 9 students and 1 administrator was killed by 4 American Indians. So they weren't students, it was a long time ago, so I'm not too quite sure about the history of that, but that was the earliest dated one. And then Columbine was the next one after that. I don't have any research on school shootings in between the two, but I know that's the earliest school shooting.
I would be curious to hear your thoughts on Ms. Grove's original question about do you think LCA is more or less susceptible to a school shooter because we are a Christian school?
What was that?
Do you think LCA is more or less susceptible to a school shooter because we are a Christian school? Whether it's internal shooter or external shooter, do you think we're more or less susceptible to that?
I think we're successful. You don't see a lot of it, but I think for different reasons. We're like we're Christians. I mean, we're a Christian school, and like I think that people like have the different beliefs and stuff. And I think that like Christians are like
Parenting, like, here is obviously different than the parenting at public schools, so that could also play a role. Because some parents at public schools, they're not always going to be monitoring their kids' social media or, like, their mental health. And I feel like at a private school, we're, like, kind of sheltered, so our parents know what we post, and our parents want the best outlook for us.
On the flip side of that, what about for those parents who may have different beliefs than their children, and they want their children to come to Christian school? I mean, can you see that as a problem if the child is really against that?
yeah.
So if something were to happen at LCA, do you feel that you are prepared for that? Is it something that as teenagers in this day and age, you have to kind of consciously go, okay, this could happen?
I think we can be more prepared. I think we should have more practice on like lockdown drills. And in that case, what would we do? I know right now we just be quiet, turn the lights off, get away from the door, but how would we fight back as students? People have said like throw cans of soup. We don't have cans of soup. I mean, I'm not trying to be like mean, but like, where are these cans of soup? I don't know what they're talking about. And I know and I know they say books, but I feel like in those situations, you're so frantic. You're not gonna have time to run over to the other side of the room and grab a book off the bookshelf. I just think there's more like strategies we could come up with.
I know, like, I think it was a school in Florida. A teacher put, like, a hook inside of her classroom next to the door, and she, like, measured it. And then, what is it? I think it's a latch. So, like, if the shooter tried to come in, there was only room for him to, like, put his elbow through, but he couldn't put his whole body in there. And then it's not bulletproof glass, so there was really no way he could get the door down.
Lexi, you mentioned practicing more. My question, though, is do you think that would really help? Because do you think your peers, and this is for any of you, not just Lexi, but do you think your peers take practicing seriously?
I remember when we had like drill, it was a lockdown drill, and I remember that we were in class, like it was this year, and all we did was just turn off the lights and sit in our seats. We didn't get up or anything. So I think that I feel like we should just take it more seriously. Like I know, because we know when there's going to be like lockdowns, like everybody knows because the teachers tell us and stuff. Like I think that we should just practice more, like not us knowing and what we should actually do. It should be more serious. Because I feel like right now we're just.
I'm just curious how you get them to take it more seriously. Because, I mean, you mentioned earlier, we've had a school shooting right here in Marshall County. And how do you take it more seriously? How do you get your peers? Maybe you do, but how do you get your peers to take it more seriously?
Like a couple years ago, I remember I was in Shannon's class. We had like what is it called, a lockdown? Yeah, we had like a lockdown, and they told us that it was real. And
Yeah, that was.
everybody was like totally silent, like nobody spoke.
Yeah, he
thing,
said
they're
this
like,
is not a drill, this is not a drill, this is a real walk